I've said this before that I think one of the biggest challenges in a man's life is not just making it. Matter of fact, making it is probably the second hardest challenge you'll have. It's staying atop there, and there's a balance there. You want to stay motivated, and you also want to stay humble. I read this story earlier today from Tim Bontemps, who wrote, fresh off winning an NBA title and signing a record contract extension over the weekend, Jayson Tatum arrived in Sim City for his first Team USA training camp practice Monday with a fresh haircut and feeling like the weight was lifted off his shoulders. Just being the topic of discussion of so many debates or whatever it is, can he lead a team? Is he a top 5 player? There's still a lot of things I guess they can debate, but what I've done, they can't debate. I've won a championship. Having that under my belt, like obviously it's still a conversation whether to be had or whatever people want to say, but they've always got to refer to me as an NBA champion. Yeah. Now, look, he is a champion, unlike Dwight Howard, who after losing in the playoffs said, I'm still a champion when he didn't win a championship until the COVID championship with the Lakers, which still sort of a championship, right? But the interesting part about it is I'm not sure what debate he settled. He's right. We do have to point out he's an NBA champion. That does not settle any sort of debate. I mean, I guess if you want to make the debate, hey, can Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum work together and win a championship? There's a portion of time where that was some sort of debate. I'm not sure if it's debate. That's more a question that has been answered. But there's also we're settling all debates. That's it. I settled debates. That's just feeling yourself. And it's fascinating. I understand this is the way the NBA works, where a guy gets done, and even though he had a second straight disappointing finals, we reward him with the biggest contract in the history of professional sports because he's next guy up and he's a really good player. But it actually didn't settle any debates as to whether or not he's a top 5 player. Did it? Like, do we put him in the pantheon of Joel Embiid, of Nikola Jokic, of Luka, frankly? I don't think so. And obviously Giannis getting hurt, but when you get hurt or Embiid has gotten hurt, when your team doesn't and you don't play well and your team still wins as opposed to you don't play well and your team loses, I actually think it settles the debate as to who won. Was it your team or was it you individually? I mean, with this group right now, Jayson Tatum is a fabulous player. This is not in any way me telling you Jayson Tatum stinks. But if you had to choose in a game today, would you even start him on USA Basketball? Remember, USA Basketball doesn't have Giannis, doesn't have Jokic. I wouldn't. But Jayson Tatum wants to believe that he's settled all debates by being part of a tremendous championship year where they had the best regular season record, and of course won the postseason as well. It's like you want to pull him aside and go, Psst, Jayson, that's not exactly a debate that you're an NBA champion. That's a fact. A debate is whether or not you're a top 5 player, and that's still some sort of debate. Most people are on the other side of it, right? And you can just see Jayson Tatum go, no, I settled that debate. We won a championship. Like, no. It's the hardest thing. You know, I did the NBA draft I started at ESPN doing it, so 9 years at ESPN, and I did it for, I think, 5 years elsewhere, either with Fox Sports Radio. I did it with Stadium Sports as well. And I remember there'd be so many of these players who, like Jayson Tatum, are just really fabulous people when you meet them. And they come out in the NBA draft, and they're 19, 20, 21 years old, and you want to grab them. And sometimes we would grab them, pull them aside, and go like, hey, man, just my hope for you is you have this great career in that 5-6 years from now when we meet up somewhere on a street, you're the exact same guy then as you are now. And I'm not saying he went Hollywood or went to his head, But I think there's somewhere in between that and staying humble, and he's very, very close to the it going to his head phase. Well, we've ended all debates because you have to call me a champion. Yeah, that's not actually how the debates ended. The question was whether or not you could play well in the finals, and you had one really good game. The question was whether or not you and Jaylen Brown could coexist. That's fair. Jaylen Brown did coexist. Jaylen Brown played better than you in the finals. It's also fair to say, hey, you were top of the scouting report. That's okay. That's a hard way to live. They were focused on you. But you played 2 NBA finals. You haven't been exceptional consistently in either of them. So if there's a debate about where you are at the top of the food chain, I'd say that debate is still out there. Well, no one can debate if you're not that you're an NBA champion. Arash Markazi is going to join us upcoming in a moment. Because, of course, Arash started a company called the Sporting Tribune. He's been a well-traveled dude and really knows the sports landscape. He's in Vegas. We'll get his thoughts on Cooper Flagg, his thoughts on this team. It's really interesting, right? Because you try and match up guy for guy, and a good portion of it is that we have recency bias, right? Recency bias. And the recency bias is it's really hard for us to watch Anthony Edwards play as well as he played at times in the playoffs and go, man, Clyde the Glide Drexler was better than, because Clyde Glide didn't go with his left hand. I don't think he was as good. But at that point in time, during the 92 Dream Team, there was, at least in the previous season, some talk of whether or not Clyde was actually better than Jordan for the year. That was actually a real thing. I think Embiid is better than Pat Ewing, mostly from the standpoint of there was never a moment in Pat Ewing's career where anybody thought Pat Ewing was the best player in the NBA. Pat Ewing was a very, very good, great player on many levels. Very good. But there was, again, never a moment where somebody said, if not Michael Jordan, Pat Ewing's the second best player in the NBA. That didn't happen. They did get MVPs to other people. It wasn't to Pat Ewing. So I think if you look at center, Embiid is more well-rounded, more talented, shoots a better, scores different areas, probably a better rim protector. The one difference would be obviously that Ewing was healthier longer than Embiid's been healthy, but that's not really the question. The question is, what's a more talented, what's a better roster? And the answer is, I don't know. It's so different. The eras are different. The competition is better. I think we're going to get pushed in this thing. I don't think it's just Canada. I think plenty of those European teams will push us. Of course, we don't have our brackets pretty easy. Our bracket's fairly easy. Sudan and Puerto Rico, and who's the other team in it? I think we're okay. But it's really you got Jordan, Bird, and Magic. Now, Bird was at the end of the career. Magic was he had retired because of HIV, so there was a difference there. Whereas LeBron is older than Magic, older than Bird was. Body isn't nearly as broken down as Bird's was. Kevin Durant is, again, not as broken down as Bird, but similarly, kind of getting towards end of the line in his career. There's a parallel there. But Jordan was, without any question, the best player in the NBA, the best player on earth at that time, and we don't have that on this team. Maybe it's Embiid, maybe it's not. So the overall talent of USA basketball probably is good or better than it's ever been. Is this a better team? I don't know if I could say that. I would still take the 92 Dream Team. If you look at the number of NBA championships between those big three, the overall balance of the team, arguably or maybe inarguably the two best point guards in the history of the NBA, both on the team.